It's so nice to have you all here. Again, my name is Jos Duncan-Asé, and I'm the founder and CEO of Bugnail Media. I wanted to bring people together to talk about AI, what it's doing to our communities, how we can advocate for more regulation, how we can be using it both for to help us in some ways, it's helping a lot of people, but also how we can be thinking about the protections that are needed in order for it to exist and better serve humans. And thank you all for being here. I'm very excited to have two incredible guests, Shesheena Bray, who is not yet, you don't have to come up yet, is the Senior Program Director for Me Too International, and she's also a licensed therapist. And Dr. Phil Roundtree, who is also a therapist and a professor at the Minnesota, Phil, please tell me the name of the university. Southwest Minnesota State University. And so I'm so grateful to have some people here who are directly dealing with and navigating issues related to mental health and gender justice. And also thank you to all of you. I feel like we have so many rock stars here today. We have our co-presenter, CIC, folks in the building. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. CIC, who got behind us to present this series. We have a number of community sponsors, including Women's Way. We have some representatives from Women's Way here. Woo! Thank you, Women's Way. Mom Your Business was like one of our first sponsors. Fun Times Magazine is a sponsor. Madre Tierra. With that said, I'm so glad you all are here. We're going to I want to keep the conversation light because it's love, right? It's love, and I think that love and design go hand in hand, because when you design things, people can feel loved without even knowing so much love was put into it, right? And so my hope is that we can design things that work for humanity through these conversations, but I also don't want people to leave here sad, right? I want you to feel like you've heard something cool, you have some cool resources, you have some good food, and you made some good connections. So that is my goal for today. This is a report that was actually done with AI. The tool that I use is called Perplexity. Have any of you used Perplexity before? Perplexity is a research tool, and it really scans the internet and pulls information together in a very comprehensive way. So I told Perplexity the goals of this program today. I told it about the concerns. I told it that I needed facts to support my hypotheses, and it did the research and pulled all of this together. If you are going to cite this report anywhere, I would invite you to just triple check any data, because this report was generated using AI. But I think as a part of us advocating for regulation and guardrails in the AI space, it's also important to talk about what it can actually do, right? And how it can help us so that we're not in the dark and left behind. This report was generated by Perplexity. This slideshow was created with Claude. So I told Claude about the event today and asked it to prepare a slideshow, and it gave us graphics and little little emoji type things and all of that. And hey, I tried this for the first time today. I said, since I'm diving into it, let's do it. But so these are some of the cool things that AI is doing, but I want to really get into some other things that are going on. This morning, I received a newsletter from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I'm a subscriber to the Inquirer. And come on in, Keish, grab some food, join the conversation. And coincidentally, the headline was that in Radnor, PA, there have been numerous incidents of deepfakes being created of school students, and they are experiencing mental health issues and afraid to go to school, and their peers have basically seen their images become pornographied. And this is causing a lot of damage, and no one is being held accountable because the incidents are happening outside of school. So the school can't actually regulate what's happening. And then the tech companies, there's no regulation in the tech companies, so they can't actually be held responsible. And there is just a new space that is evolving. And I thought, wow, I was so stressed out about getting my newsletter out last night, and I got it out this morning and I got that article in there. So it just showed the relevance of what we're doing here today. And so actually 98% of the deep fakes that are online are pornographic. And there's a difference between a deep fake and a user-generated AI image. So if there's just like a random, make me a woman who looks a certain way with black hair, that's not necessarily a deep fake. A deep fake is when you take someone else's image and you make that image say or do something that it never did. And so 98% of the deepfake images that are online are actually being used in porn. 99% of them target women and girls. There's been a 550% year-over-year growth of that. And while I know a lot of the harms are happening among women and girls, I think it was really important for me to have a black male therapist here also to talk about the impact on men and what those kinds of statistics and how that impacts society and social relationships and just how people are navigating these things. Let's go to the next slide. 2 slides. The isolation paradox. And then when we think about this combined with mental health, a lot of people are feeling very isolated, particularly, again, following the pandemic in 2023. It was said that there was a crisis, like an isolation crisis, and that was impacting people's mental health. And with that, between 17 and 24% of young people have developed AI dependencies. They're talking to chatbots all day and they're getting advice, and some people are being parented by AI right now. 50% of the people who need therapy can't necessarily access it. Are you guys hearing that as well? Like the half the people who need therapy to my therapist can't actually access it, so they're turning to these AI bots. And a lot of people have been referring to the incident where a Florida teen died by suicide after his AI chatbot said, maybe we can die together. Very important to just be aware of some of what's happening in that space. And there was no real regulation on who would be responsible for a chatbot that encourages a teen to do something like that. So with that, I'm going to skip this slide, and I actually want to just jump into a conversation with Shesheena Bray. So Shesheena, welcome. Thank you. And thank you, Nicole. Can we give it up for Nicole Blackson for holding down like so much all the time, every day? Thank you, Nicole. Shesheena, hi, here, welcome. Let me get you a microphone.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Oh, well, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm just going to act like I'm having a regular conversation with Jos, and that there's not an audience here or anything like that. No pressure, no cameras, just you and I just chatting.
Yes.
So my name is Shesheena Bray. I'm the Senior Director of Programs and Partnerships at Me Too International. I'm also a licensed professional counselor. I have my own private practice. And so I come into this conversation because my work is centered on supporting survivors of sexual violence. And unfortunately, sexual violence is no longer just limited to the immediate contact you're having with someone else's body. Because of AI, we are now dealing with what you call tech-facilitated gender-based violence or tech abuse. And so I've had to learn about all of these different ways that people are continuing to be violated by way of technology now. So I'm not an AI expert, but I've had to learn these things because I'm supporting survivors of sexual violence, and this is one form of sexual violence.
Can you give us some examples of some of what you've seen and what people have been dealing with?
Yeah, so there are a number of different things. You mentioned chatbots.
Yeah.
So chatbots are definitely filling a gap for survivors who are seeking out supports. You mentioned 50% of people looking for therapists don't have access. I would love to talk about what may be happening there, but the reality is there's a gap between need and what people have access to. And so now that we have chatbots available where you can go and say, hey, I'm dealing with this problem, or is this what I experienced? You have chatbots meeting a need of people, but is grossly unregulated, right? So that's one particular area. You have things like undressing apps. So you talked about that 550% increase. There used to be 1 or 2 undressing apps, and an undressing app allows you to take an image, take a picture or an uploaded picture of a woman or femme's body, and then it will issue a lifelike rendering of what that person's body looks like. These apps are normed for women's bodies, for femme bodies. So this is an issue of gender-based violence. We have the use of deepfakes, as you mentioned, right? Not only impacting survivors on a day-to-day or people impacted by intimate partner violence, but you also have human rights defenders. So you have women and femmes on the front line who are defending against larger issues of gender-based violence, becoming victims of deepfake pornography in order to delegitimize them, in order to create embarrassment, in order to create isolations within their community. You have, what else? You have then the policies that are lagging, which I know we'll talk a little bit about in terms of how are we actually protecting people? How do we ensure that someone can't just put up an image online and then you have no recourse for it? How do you ensure that your image is protected, it's safe, that your child's image is protected, it's safe? So those are some of the different things that we're encountering.
Thank you. Thank you. Is this new for anyone? Is this new information? Can I just see your hand if you've never heard anything about this? Thank you. Yeah, so Shesheena, one of the things that's so exciting to me about you being part of this conversation is that you bring solutions, and you are seeing communities. You're not necessarily doing it. You're not really in the AI space per se, but you are very much in the social justice, the gender justice space, and you're seeing people organize and mobilize to combat some of the harms that are being caused due to AI and these issues.
Yes.
So can you just talk a little bit about some of what you're seeing? And keep in mind, I've invited everyone here. I've invited Shesheena here as someone who is speaking from her experience and what she's seen, not necessarily as the go-to expert in how to design these things. So this is just testimonial and not necessarily like clinical advice or anything like that.
No problem.
Okay.
I'm always clear, like, this is not clinical advice. So I think there are a number of positive things happening. There's a really good book out by Laura Bates called The New Age of Sexism. And so it looks at how uses of AI, other aspects of the internet, are furthering sexual violence, right? So if we can, by having more ways to objectify bodies, especially femme bodies, to create algorithms in which you're getting the same idea of what a woman should be or what a femme should be, it makes it easier to enact violence on those bodies. So the book speaks about this. We have people who are looking at AI and then figure out it's here, it's not going anywhere, so how do we make the best of it? So with the chatbots, you have organizations like, what did I write? Yeah, Girl Effect, who are providing guidelines for organizations who do decide to use chatbots. So if survivor justice organizations are saying, yes, this is the best way to access survivors, we can get to them quickly, here are the best ways to design these chatbots. With all of these implications in mind, how does this chatbot ultimately lead someone back to a human? That should be the goal. We know that AI shows up as a sycophant. It's only concerned with being subservient. It's just going to keep feeding you. It's not going to tell you to stop. It's not going to tell you, hey, maybe you spent enough time here. Maybe you should talk to a friend. Maybe you should talk to a professional. It's going to keep giving you all the information that you want so that you keep coming back and become dependent upon it. And so creating chatbots that are directing people back to people is really important. You have organizations like Glitch UK, which is looking at not just AI, but everything that we're doing on the internet and making sure that we're not replicating harm in any way. I'm thinking of an organization, Chen. We work directly with this organization. They create a number of online healing resources for survivors globally. And one of the things that they've produced is essentially like a take it down letter. So they've used AI to scan Meta, to scan these other large social media platforms, to look at their privacy policies, to create a form letter that people can use if there's an image of themselves on these platforms that they want taken down. So you can go use the letter, fill in your information, and the AI will help you find the specificity as it relates to your particular issue to have it then taken down. So using AI to support survivors to help, again, disrupt sexual violence. Another organization that I'm thinking of that we work very closely with is called Our Wave, and they've been creating these safe spaces, these encrypted spaces for survivors to share their stories and to be uplifted and supported by other survivors of sexual violence. And so one of the beautiful things about what they're doing is that they're using AI to help aggregate data, right? What are we learning about survivors in this space? So it's not just creating a space for survivors to be in community, but it's also what are the learnings that we can take from these spaces that we can replicate and utilize in other spaces. They've started a Q&A feature which survivors ask questions, and right now there's a therapist who answers these questions. But also, what does it look like to train AI with this therapist's voice, with all of these questions that survivors have asked? How do we start to train AI to the best of our ability to then answer these questions? So those are just a few things. We're working with a coalition of folks at do we want to develop something together? If we came together, what would be the best use of our time? Is it going after the big companies and helping them to understand the impact? Perhaps they already know and they don't care. Or is it around developing something that can better serve survivors?
This is great. And one of the things, just understanding the technology. So I'm really, for a while there, I was really into the tech. I'm a media person. I lead Love Now Media. And for a little while there, I felt like I was cheating on my love of media with tech because I got so into AI, how it works, how the technology worked. And so just understanding it as a large language model and understanding how it is trained on a very large set of data, and then understanding how these like custom GPTs and custom agents work, where you can actually train them on a smaller, more specific amount of data, or that keeps it within a certain way of thinking and a certain set of instructions, and uses only the specific knowledge base that you have trained it on, that then gives you the ability to take a tool that is usually processing massive amounts of data that could be giving you a lot of misinformation, and then you train it to work with a smaller amount of data, still using the same technology to come up with ways of communicating, but the data is more specific. And so that's what you call like a system prompt. So usually an AI assistant or an AI agent is built on some kind of knowledge base and some kind of a system prompt. And yeah, and so with that, this is incredible to hear this use case for how gender justice organizations are saying, let's give it this knowledge base. Let's give the tool this system prompt, so that when people chat with this, they are actually better resourced than they would be if they were just interacting with a large language model. So yeah. This is great. Shesheena, thank you so much. And thank you for being at lunch with us. We'll have time at the end of this program for people to continue chatting and chewing. But let's give Shesheena Bray a round of applause. Thank you. I'd love to invite Phil Roundtree up next. Hi, Phil.
How are you?
I'm good. Does anybody recognize Phil? Does he look familiar? Lord, no. Phil is currently on Netflix right now. He is a celebrity. He's on, what is the name of the show? $1 Million
Secret.
He's on a show called $1 Million Secret. It's actually a very good show. Oh, I was watching it. We were watching it. We were like, look at Phil. Phil's going to win the $1 million. So check it out if you get a chance. So anyway, thank you for being here, Miss Netflix. But Phil also does some incredible work in Philadelphia. I share your stuff all the time when you're hosting the You Good Man conversations. Can you just tell us who you are, what you're doing in the mental health space?
So I'm trying to be as clear and succinct as Shesheena here. It was a wonderful job. Appreciate you. I'm sitting here taking notes. It goes to show I'm sitting here writing, and I'm like, I don't remember my handwriting being this bad, because I was transcribing it from my phone to this text. And so I'm so used to typing everything, I forgot how my handwriting looked. But this just goes to show how glued to technology we are. So I am Dr. Phillip Roundtree, the founder of so many things, Quadefy LLC, which is a business that's been in existence since 2016, where I provide wellness services to any and everybody at this point. So what that looks like is I'm a licensed clinical social worker with a background in children and families, and most recently, the last 10 years or so, working specifically with men, black men, whether cis, trans, no matter how you identify, and really having these important conversations about I don't like the term masculinity, femininity. What does it mean to be a human being? But I understand, as Shesheena and I were talking about, the importance of naming things, and folk can better understand things when they name them. But the work that I've been doing with brothers is just this idea of what does it mean to be whole? What does it mean to be fully human? And so that looks like me meeting with brothers bi-weekly, actually, just in different parts of the city where we can really sit and have these necessary conversations. I remember a homie of mine, they were like, what's the difference between this and a barbershop? And so first I said, it's me. And so when I say it's me, for those who may follow me on social media, like, I'm a push. Right? I'm a push. That's what a good therapist does, right? We do it with care, and sometimes we do it with a little bit of force. And so for me, if you're going to come sit in this group, we've had brothers who've sat and said, yo, this B gets on my nerves. Some of the reasons that people go to AI, why? Because it's safer. I could have these types of conversations without fear of judgment, fear of so many things, right? And so if they say this out in the world, they're going to be castigated, right? So you say this here, it's okay. What do you mean by that? And then what is it about that language? We need to have a conversation about that as well. And so pride myself on just the safety and the vulnerability and the transparency that brothers have with the group. And I do a host of other things. I teach, I do Netflix, I just do a whole bunch of stuff.
That's nice. I want to be like you when I grow up. I'm looking for that Netflix deal. So Phil, in your biweekly meetup groups, are you hearing about men who are turning to AI as companions or as a substitute for the kind of human connection that you're ultimately facilitating?
No, I wouldn't say those are the conversations that we're having, just because they tend to come with a lot of other pressing issues, so we cannot necessarily get to this idea of AI. Last year I introduced a curriculum, and maybe this year when I roll it back out, that may be a conversation that we have, because it is important. But a lot of the conversations we have speak to like quality of life issues, what's taking place with you physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. So we don't necessarily gauge that aspect of it, but I most certainly can understand why somebody would turn to it, and specifically why men would turn to it. This idea of safety. What does that look like? Listen, I understand that we live in what bell hooks call it, white imperialist, white supremacist, patriarchal, capitalistic society.
Okay.
We recognize all of this, but what does this, and we recognize the patriarchy that we live in, but men are also harmed by the patriarchy too, right? And in recognizing this, a lot of brothers are carrying so much, right? The responsibilities of what this idea of masculinity means. And so, yeah, if I'm carrying all of this, I don't necessarily have the outlets, the healthy outlets where I do feel safe. Then yeah, I can see, listen, let me just type it into this chat bot that's right here on my phone, right? At ease of accessibility.
So how have you heard about any instances where people are dealing with extreme loneliness and might be ultimately needing someone to talk to but can't access them? And like, how are you dealing with that in your groups of men?
Yeah, that's what it means to be a man in this world, a black man in this world specifically. I don't know if you've seen the entire conversation between Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin. If you haven't, I encourage you to watch it, and also encourage you to watch the talk back with my homegirl, Dr. Stephanie Tisdale. But what Nikki Giovanni says is, she says, lie to me, right? Lie to me. When you come home, we get the worst of you. And she's, listen, you go smile in that white man's face all day. When we come here, we get the least of you. And what she's speaking to is, she's acknowledging the burden that comes with. And what James says is, listen, I gotta lie to you. Right? I can't lie to you because I love you. And this doesn't make sense. And he's, listen, I'm pimping myself out here by going smiling in these people's faces and so much that I carry. And so with that being said, this idea of isolation is just, this is a part of what it means to be a man in the various societies that exist out here. We see the studies that say, men have no close friends. I can understand how that happens on both ends. When we think about and I'll use I statements, when I think back to like my friendships from my teens, from college and so forth, what were they based upon? They were based upon the peripheral, right? We was playing basketball together. Yo, you trying to go hoop? We there. Yo, you trying to drink? We there. Yo, you trying to play 2K? There. Yo, you trying to go to the club and talk? Yeah, we're there. Hey, it wasn't asking, yo, how you feeling? How's your heart?
You good, man?
Exactly.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
And so it wasn't happening, and that's not happening. But this society is created for this level of isolation. And AI is a perfect manifestation of that.
Thank you. My last question, just briefly, if you could tell us, how are you using AI in your work, in your therapy work specifically?
I wanted to start this out by saying I had it written out, right? Like this idea of positionality, because I believe that's important, right? And so it's important for me to say that AI shouldn't exist, right? Apps shouldn't exist. Cell phones shouldn't exist. Why? Because they cause harm. They perpetuate harm. And listen, I've used AI.
You're pretty good at it too. So
No, but I say that in recognizing that, and this is why so many, they're pushing back against data centers. I saw what it looked like on 60 Minutes, where the woman went to go, in a rural setting, went to go turn on her water, and there was no water because it was all being used by the data center.
Yes.
And so when I think about it from that terms, I'm like, it's causing harm. For me to have the Samsung Galaxy S25, cobalt is needed, and so what's happening? Who's the marginalized populations that's being intentionally harmed? Folk in the Congo, folk in the Sudan, folk in these different places. For me to have that phone means that somebody had this experience harm, and so I'm cognizant of that. Now, with that being said, it's much like a gun. I would love to say, get all the guns out. That's not a reality. AI is here. Now, what does helpful AI look like where you're minimizing harm? Because I think that's the goal of human beings, right? We want to minimize harm as much as possible. So what does this look like? Hey, you know what? Maybe if I am going to use ChatGPT, I'm going to use it to answer a question, a text, right? That's going to use some water. That's going to pull from it. It's the difference between making a caricature and me at my job, right? And all of the things. One uses 1 million liters of water, the other not so much.
I want to jump in here
Because
because this is an important point for me. Being in this advocacy space, so most of us know that AI is impacting the environment, right? We know about a lot of the environmental harms. It is using water. It is pulling on the electrical grid. So there are people, everyday folks, who are receiving large electric bills because the data centers are popping up in neighborhoods and they're sharing the energy with the residents. So the residents are having higher electric bills. This is causing huge problems. But one thing I always talk about is I remember maybe 3-4 years ago in Philly when there was a big campaign for people to stop throwing their recyclables in the garbage. And there was a campaign stating that people would be fined. I think it was like between $75 and $200. Do you all remember that? It was like a big deal. Make sure you recycle. If you don't recycle, you're going to get this fine. Definitely Mayor Kenny was still mayor. It was a big thing. And then we found out Philadelphia was sending their garbage to incinerators in Chester to be burned. So on the one hand, we are making residents responsible and charging them and bad-mouthing them for not recycling a can properly. But the big institution is contributing to extreme harms by not having the proper regulations in place. So when we're talking about AI, I try not to make the person who's making their office picture feel like they're responsible for the water, because I truly believe it is the AI companies, the big tech companies that are making billions and billions of dollars. They need to be regulated, because I don't want to say folks should be limiting themselves to 10 prompts a day on ChatGPT when you got people plopping up data centers and they're not being taxed or they're not being held accountable in any way. So I just had to
just to offer a little slight pushback.
And a little healthy debate is always fine as well.
For sure.
So.
But I think things within our control we should participate in. Right? We do what we can. Some people have the opportunity to volunteer a zillion hours a day, a zillion hours a year, right? Somebody may only have an hour. Can we ask them, hey, you mind giving 5 minutes? You mind giving 2 minutes? And so, because when we look at it in totality, it is impactful. It is meaningful. And to your question, when I think about just the use of AI in therapeutic spaces, I actually, in preparation for this, I didn't want it to be this way, but I had an acquaintance of a friend of mine, reach out to me, and they expressed that they didn't say it outright, but you could clearly had some suicidal ideations. They talk about being in darkness. This person is based in Chicago, right? And so I took what they wrote and I put it in a chat bot, and I wanted to see what the response is going to be. And so It said, listen, you should tell them that you're there for them and so forth. And it was like, okay, but I'm not there for them. I don't want to talk to them in that way. I'm not their therapist. I can hold space for sure, but no, I can't pick up the phone and sit for an hour, 2 hours, or anything like that. And so I put that in there and said, listen, I can't do that. And it said something so callous. It was like, no, yeah, I can't help you with this. And it was like, and this was ChatGPT, and I said, no, this is cold and callous. And it said, wait, you're right. This isn't. But this goes to when we talk about this importance of prompting. I do this with my students all the time. If you say, hey, write me a paper, it's just going to write you a paper. And so it's the importance of understanding prompts. But I think about this, if he were to turn to AI, if he were to a chat bot, what could that potentially look like for him if he received that information? Now, if he's using it for, or anybody's using it for, say, hey, give me some journal prompts, right, that it could be useful for me. That's a therapeutic intervention, right? When it comes to, hey, should I change my medication dosage? No, you don't want to be asking ChatGPT for that. But what happens, it's accessible. It's right, it's here and now. Many of us don't have, again, it definitely impacts the most vulnerable. We don't have doctor friends who we can call up and have these conversations, have these questions with, because it has impacted how we engage relationally. But this goes, as you said, to the top. This goes to capitalism. Why don't we have enough time to engage with one another, to be able to ask questions? Hopefully, I get Jos. I keep going for time. But I think it's so important because it's important to understand how these systems impact how we show up on a day-to-day basis. And I participate in this even pre-AI, where it's just, you know what, I have all of this expertise. I'm sure Shesheena has the same thing. I'm sure you have the same thing. Hey, can I pick your brain? And you'd be like, well, you could pick my brain for $50. You could pick my brain.
That's a consulting fee.
Exactly.
Right.
But what does this mean in terms of community? Now, will I now go and get AI because the people that I want to be able to engage with, they don't have time to engage with me unless it's about some type of tangible good that's being transferred. Right. So I think we need to really think about just how we're engaging with each other, because this is a byproduct of it.
Thank you. This is great. And Phil, that takes us into, I think, the next part of this community discussion. So I want to thank you. Thank you, Phil. So let's give Phil a round of applause.
One of the issues that we came up with your question was it's illegal so to do. We live in a constitutional republic here that has created freedoms of speech, freedom of press, freedom of all these things, which means that when we create policies in a company, they can be defeated in court very quickly, which means that when we have problems in schools, they're defeated by the system we live in. And so even in creating policy or creating mechanisms outside of this, we run into this wall of what do we mean to say it is possible within the framework of the body that we have currently constitutionally? And the answer right now is no. We have laws that say that the person who takes your picture is the person who owns them, not you. So now I have to go back to effectively change the law to make it I need two-party consent, and then I have to figure out who the photographer is for consent. So we have this wall of, as much as we do to create systems that would fix things, we don't have a legal recourse for it.
And I will say that this is where I think about how change can happen. We have system change, we have policy change, we have economic change, and we have cultural change, right? So all of these systems take a lot of maneuvering, right? But if I do like this, if I do like this to you, you shake my hand, that's culture. So you knew to do that because we've established a cultural agreement. So sometimes change simply starts there. We have to create cultures and norms that keep us safe, and then we start to build it out. So that would just be my idea of a response, but we are indeed co-creating. Anyone else have something? Keish, come on up. Thank you, David. Thank you. Can we give him a round of applause? Hey, Keish.
Hey.
Okay.
I didn't fully process my thoughts, but I do feel like
Talking to Mike.
so I didn't fully process my thoughts on this. But I do have thoughts. To me personally, I don't feel like policy change is enough for anything. I feel like we live in a country where policies are constantly changing. So I feel like if we do implement policies, we don't know if it's going to be sustainable. I do think it is good to drop those ideas because it's a good short-term idea. But for me personally, what I feel like needs to be integrated is new sustainable designs outside of the government, outside of systems. And so one thing that I was actually looking at a few years ago is vertical farming, and basically it's called vertical farming. So basically it uses 99% less water And just like, it's a new way of farming, and it's farming indoors. So I feel like investing in technology that's sustainable, that can like counter what's happening with AI, I feel is important.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Let's give Keisha a round of applause. And it's not that it's a performance, Emily, please. It's not that it's a performance that we're applauding for. We're just giving that good love energy to folks, okay? Hi, Emily.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I would love to hear. What are you thinking?
Also, I distracted by y'all. Hey, good to see y'all. So another unpolished thought, but I think implementing transparency reporting would be a big one. So knowing what it is that they're training these bots to do, how they're being trained to potentially handle like trauma-based input, and then also the data that they're gathering, because I think that's another big one. Like, I have trust issues. I don't enter anything personal in there because I just know it's like free reign. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's give her that love energy. Yeah. One of the pushbacks the companies have about that is they think that these are their like trademarked designs. So if they've trained their bot one way and they give transparency about what they've trained it on, they feel like the competitor will then do the same thing. But you're right. Anyone else want to share a thought about design, systems design, advocacy, policy change? Anyone else? Yes, come on up.
So I'm Misha, and I just wanted to add on to the transparency conversation. I wanted to acknowledge you, Jos, because I think this is the first presentation that I've gone to where up front you were very transparent about how AI was used in both the report and in the presentation and your usage of it. And I think that's still not established as a new norm, especially in like disclosing that. I know you have a disclosure on your website also, so I just really appreciate the leadership you're taking in that, and I think we all, especially like where we're working, need to think more about what that transparency looks like.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. That has been one of the, let's give her love energy, Misha. So one of the things I have been advocating for is more ethical uses of AI, which includes every organization that is using AI having some kind of an AI policy. If you go to Love Now Media's webpage and you look at our About section, there is a clear AI policy about what we use AI to do, why we use it, and how we are using it, and what our commitment is. And that's that there will always be a human involved. I'm going to read the report before I give it out. I'm going to make some corrections, which I did have to do. I'm going to add my name to the front page so you know that it was me who did the prompt. And this is something that I think every organization needs, okay? I am also partnering with Rudy, who is our presenting partner for this series. They do a whole training. If you want to get deep into AI, you can go to learnrudy.com and learn more about how to implement AI into your organization in a sustainable way. But right here in Philly, this is a part of the love work that we're doing, is helping people to really think about how to be more ethical, how to really advocate for change that is sustainable and community rooted. And so with that, I'm so grateful that all of you have come out today. We definitely have some leftover food, so feel free to pack up a plate. I'm going to play music for another 20 minutes. So please take some time to socialize, get a phone number, hug someone, exchange an idea, pick a brain. Oh, and Tanya T. Morris, this is from Mom Your Business. She has something. Yes, I'll have you have our final word. Yeah, Tanya.
I just wanted to echo what you were saying about the policy thing and being transparent and really saying this is how we're going to use it as an employer. So as an employer, that is something that we're doing as well as far as policy. But I also wanted to invite you all, if you're a morning person, every Wednesday at 9 a.m. we host 1 Million Cups, which is basically business conversations over coffee. at Braid Mill, which is 441 East High Street up in Germantown. We have 2 presenters. They each get 6 minutes, and then they get feedback from the audience of experts. And so that's every single Wednesday. If you want to present, let me know. We'll sign you up. And if not, just come out and join us. And then on March the 18th at Braid Mill again, we'll be having a Women's History Month called She Built It. And we're going to honor and celebrate some innovators and some legendary women, entrepreneurs throughout the city. And one of our innovators will be your very own hostess for this event in the person of Miss Jos Duncan. So please come out and celebrate Jos. Y'all ain't going to clap for Jos? I'll make sure. I thought I was in the right room. So she's so humble. Jos has been on the cutting edge of a lot of things, and I thought it would be remiss on our part if we didn't celebrate her. So please, if you can, come out and support Josh on the 18th and come out to 1 Million Cups. All right? That's all I got.
Thank you, everybody. And our next AI Advocacy Lunch is actually March 17th. So right here, same time. I keep saying I'm going to go to a different place for the food, but Renata's Kitchen is all right. That's pretty good. But please, you'll see the flyers going out. And if anyone is not on our newsletter, please go to our website and sign up now. If you're not following us on social media, please go to lovenowmedia.com. And please tell somebody about our next event. This is the second in a series of 5. So next month, we're focused on education, AI advocacy and education. So we're going to be talking a lot about youth and protecting our children in schools and with the educational access that they are getting and a lot of the AI issues that are coming up in the educational sector. Thank you. Thank you all again, and have a great afternoon. All right. Oh, and thank you to Eli and Lou. I forgot to say that. Thank you. They are twins, if anybody's wondering. So thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.